Member for San Fernando East.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for recognizing me, Madam Speaker, and I also want to thank you for the opportunity to join in and contribute to this debate on the Appropriation Bill 2017. Madam Speaker, this is my third budget debate 2017. This is my third budget debate, Madam Speaker, and along with my colleagues, I would like the opportunity to congratulate the Minister of Finance and his team, Madam Speaker, for his presentation of a very responsible 2018 budget. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the Minister of Planning for her close and diligent work throughout the financial year, Madam Speaker, in assisting the Ministry of Finance in planning and coming up with this budget. Madam Speaker, I think it's appropriate at this time, coming after the member for Tabaquite, to speak to the status of the private developers applying for certificates of income tax exemptions for the construction of low-cost housing. Madam Speaker, these developers would have expressed significant confidence in this government in partnering in the construction of low-cost housing in Trinidad and Tobago, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have 4 developers, and I would like to congratulate them. Lange Holdings Limited of Montrose Place, Lange Park, Chaguanas. West Hills Development Limited, Caribbean Housing Limited, and Madam Speaker, Mr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan, our colleague right here, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, at least 24 persons in this House are expressing confidence in this government, and the member for Tabaquite is one of them, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I also remind the member for Tabaquite that the PP ran 5 deficit budgets. Madam Speaker, the member for Tabaquite wasn't concerned at that point in time. It didn't seem so. Madam Speaker, may I remind that when the UNC came into office in their first year of office, they sent home almost 5,000 contract workers, Madam Speaker. 10,000 by December, Madam Speaker. Tabaquite wasn't concerned about that. Madam Speaker, concerning the Keats-Subero article, the member of Tabaquite needs to acquaint himself with wit and satire, Madam Speaker. And other literary devices. And speaking of experiments, Madam Speaker, the biggest experiment, the biggest failed experiment that this country has seen was the PP government between 2010 and 2015. Madam Speaker, we now have to steady the ship. Madam Speaker, I must also express on behalf of the people of San Fernando East to really thank the Honorable Prime Minister for his strength and fortitude in leading this government and this country at this time. And Madam Speaker, as I speak about the members about the constituency of San Fernando East, I also have to signal that it is truly an honor to represent a noble and decent people that make up the constituency of San Fernando East. And Madam Speaker, in this budget year, there are 3 projects, and I must in particular express my gratitude to the respective ministers. Madam Speaker, I must say thank you to the Minister of Sport for taking charge of the golf club and the staff club at St. Madeleine, which is located in San Fernando East. Madam Speaker, this facility once belonged to Caroni and was not available to the general public. It was just available to the managers of Caroni 1975 Limited. Madam Speaker, I remember back in the day, not everybody could use the facility. And as a young person, I would travel to that facility and run in and jump in the pool and, of course, being thrown out. So now, Madam Speaker, I want to say that my wish is that this initiative of the Ministry of Sport can now allow for young people of San Fernando East, of Princestown, of Moruga, they can now be exposed to the game of golf. They can now be exposed to tennis. They can now be exposed to swimming. And Madam Speaker, I have noticed that the leader of the opposition takes strong objection to the game of golf. And she spoke quite disparagingly about this initiative. But Madam Speaker, while at the Ministry of Public Administration, I came across a document. It was an MOU, Madam Speaker, between the Ministry of Housing and CPEP Company Limited. And that MOU was signed in 2014, and it was for the development and maintenance of this facility. And Madam Speaker, I wonder if the member for Siparia knows that CPEP spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain that facility. And Madam Speaker, to maintain that facility so that one of her ministers and his friends could learn to play the game of golf to the exclusion of all others. Who is that? Name them. The minister is a constituent. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the Minister of Community Development. I want to thank the Minister of Community Development for coming into the constituency and doing some improvement works to the Pleasantville Community Center, as well as to construct the new Taradale Community Center, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me now turn to the Ministry of Housing and report on the activities of the Ministry of Housing over the course of the year. Madam Speaker, it is useful to restate that the Ministry carries out the National Housing Policy and is mandated to provide quality, affordable housing solutions for the citizens of this country. It carries out its mandate by reference to the three pillars of affordability, accessibility, and the improvement to the standard of living and the quality of life for citizens. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Housing is not just about building houses, like some on the other side would want you to believe. Madam Speaker, it's really about affordable shelter and the delivery of affordable housing solutions. And the ministry has a number of programs, whether it be the grants program, squatter regularization, the affordable mortgage programs, Madam Speaker, to assist all citizens on their own in getting them to affordable shelter. Madam Speaker, let me turn to the Home Improvement Grant. The Home Improvement Grant, the ministry focused on the vulnerable citizens and offers a $15,000 grant so that citizens can improve their standard of living. It is really geared towards the low-income earners, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, during fiscal 2017, as at September the 30th, 705 grants were distributed to needy low-income families, Madam Speaker, for 100% utilization. Madam Speaker, the program, we have improved the efficiency in running the program, and we have improved the time between the application and the distribution of the grant. Madam Speaker, we will continue to ensure equity in the delivery of this program so that grants can now be distributed all across Trinidad and Tobago and not just in the south and central regions as happened in between the years 2010 to 2015. Madam Speaker, we thank God that our country was spared the devastating effects of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. And we sympathize with our CARICOM neighbors. Madam Speaker, we did, however, experience the adverse effects of Tropical Storm Brett and other periods of inclement weather during fiscal 2017. And Madam Speaker, there is a $15,000 emergency grant, the Emergency Shelter Relief Grant offered by the ministry, that provides assistance to the affected families. It provides assistance so that immediately on receipt of the grant, that low-income, needy, and affected family can begin to start some form of repair. Madam Speaker, during fiscal 2017, the ministry provided 64 emergency shelter relief grants. 24 grants were provided to victims of fire. 37 grants were provided to victims of natural hazards and flooding, inclement weather, etc. And 3 to persons who experienced landslips. And Madam Speaker, on the receipt of these grants, those needy families were able to start the rebuilding process. Madam Speaker, the ministry also provides matching home improvement and home construction subsidies through the neighborhood upgrading program, which is supported by an IDB loan. The loan and program, it comes to an end in December 2017. And Madam Speaker, over the past year, I'm happy to report that 317 families received home improvement subsidies and 249 families received home construction subsidies. Madam Speaker, these grant and subsidy initiatives are really geared towards the low-income families. And Madam Speaker, the grants and subsidies to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars really go a long way to improving the living conditions of these families. But more than that, they also impact the lives of the small contractors, the small hardwares, Madam Speaker, who also benefit, and they're allowed to participate in the economy through the application and the implementation of these grants programs. Madam Speaker, let me turn now to the Accelerated Housing Program, our most popular program. Madam Speaker, the Accelerated Housing Program is a product of P&M policy and came into being in 2002. Back then, Madam Speaker, the P&M recognized that government had a responsibility to assist low and middle income earners who would not otherwise have been able to purchase a home on the open market with affordable housing solutions. This government, as with the last P&M government, Madam Speaker, understands only too well that shelter is not simply about distributing a home to a family, but it is also a catalyst for alleviating poverty, reducing crime, empowering our citizens, and improving the quality of life. And Madam Speaker, at this point in time, I'd like to say thank you to the new man, the chairman of the HDC, and the board of directors of the HDC. And I'd also like to thank all the new men and women who have joined the HDC and those who are contributing to implementing our housing program, Madam Speaker. Well, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition had quite a number of disparaging things to say about this government's administration of the housing program. And Madam Speaker, allow me to take them one by one. The member for Separia said not once, but a record 5 times, they have not built one single house in 2 years. Madam Speaker, in the last month, the HDC would have sent out mass emails to everyone on the database, 174,000 of them, to show what we have been doing over the past year. And Madam Speaker, in particular, we showed the housing developments that would have been started by this administration in Gomez Trace, in River Runs Through. In particular, in River Runs Through in Arima, Madam Speaker. And in the video, you know, they showed footage of all the units that are presently built, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, close to 174,000 people on the database now know the member for Separia's affinity for the untruth. Madam Speaker.
48.6.
If you could just restate that in another way and you can move on.
Madam Speaker, 174 persons now know that the member for Separia does not know what she is talking about. But Madam Speaker, I also had the opportunity to pull the records, the construction records of the PP's record of building and the completion of housing units. And Madam Speaker, the first 3 housing projects started by the PP government was Fairfield Oasis and Cypress Gardens. Madam Speaker, They came into office in May 2010. And let me now read for you the delivery record of the PP. In 2011, Madam Speaker, no housing units delivered. In 2012, no housing units delivered. Madam Speaker, in 2013, they started to get a few housing units completed in Cypress Gardens. Madam Speaker, it means that only late into their third year did they start to complete housing units. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia further does not know what she is talking about. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia also said that we terminated work at several HTC estates. Madam Speaker, this is also untrue. Not only are we continuing the construction of all the estates, Madam Speaker, we have restarted work on housing development started pre-2010, as far back as 2005, Madam Speaker, left to rot by the PP government. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia said that 8 out of 10 persons want to buy a house and not rent. Madam Speaker, I recognize that it is a dream of many persons to own their own home. Similarly, I understand that it is a dream of many persons to own their own car. But that is simply not the reality when considering the financial circumstances of many persons, Madam Speaker. Many persons are not in a financial position to own their own homes or own their own car. And Madam Speaker, the rental option is the only viable option at the time until they improve their financial circumstances. Madam Speaker, it is about safe and secure shelter, and not so much about owning the home. The member for Saparia also says that her government is about, it believes in a home-owning democracy. But Madam Speaker, may I remind the member for Saparia that the accelerated housing program was born out of PNM policy. So too was the rent-to-own program, Madam Speaker, and TTMF's affordable mortgage programs. Madam Speaker, during their tenure in office, the People's Partnership raised the maximum household income ceiling from 25,000 to 45,000. So which owners or which citizens were they looking after in producing their home ownership democracy? The rich? The rich? Madam Speaker, we in the PNM believe in a right to adequate housing democracy. We believe in a right to a roof over your head democracy, Madam Speaker, whether it be rental accommodation or outright purchase. Madam Speaker, member for Saparia said the PNM intends to keep persons in bondage by renting. Madam Speaker, again, these housing programs were born out of PNM policy, geared towards getting persons who would not have otherwise been able to purchase a home to get a home. The rent-to-own program, the affordable mortgage program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia said the return to the old model of asking non-builders to build could result in the disbandment of the HTC through 1,400 public officers on the breadline. Madam Speaker, I don't even know what that means, but it sounds like scaremongering to me. Madam Speaker, the HTC still has a significant role to play in the design, in receiving applications, in the new housing initiatives, Madam Speaker. The private sector is now being called upon simply to fund the construction. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia said, government is handing over the housing portfolio to individuals in the private sector. Well, Madam Speaker, governments past and present have always hired private contractors to construct housing units in government's housing program. With these further incentives, Madam Speaker, we now offer contractors and developers. We are asking the private sector to fund the construction. Where in the past, Madam Speaker, government would have provided all the funding. The HDC will still be involved in the design, pricing, and allocation of applicants to the constructed units. So it still is a partnership between the public sector and the private sector, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the member for Saparia said private developers to be registered by a new committee chaired by the PM, and that reeks of political interference. And Madam Speaker, the significance of this government's new housing initiative, as the member for Tabakik just indicated, there is a long bureaucracy in obtaining statutory and regulatory approvals. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister will chair a committee of all the regulatory agencies to treat with the quick processing of regulatory approvals. Another misrepresentation, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, let's talk about the housing construction program over the last 2 years. And Madam Speaker, it is necessary to put things into perspective, into context as it relates to funding of the government's housing program over the last 2 years as compared with the PP's tenure in office. Madam Speaker, do you know that the PP's first 2 years in office, they spent $1.2 billion in the development program in housing at the HDC alone? In 2011, they spent $570 million. In 2012, they spent $528 million. Over the 5-year period, Madam Speaker, they spent $4.4 billion. Madam Speaker, by comparison, we have had a significant reduction in revenues, Madam Speaker. We have had to spend, in 2016, $165 million, and in 2017, $231 million. So that, Madam Speaker, when they speak about performance, especially in the housing sector, one must consider the funding arrangements. But Madam Speaker, that is not to make any excuse at all, because at the ministry, and I have to thank Permanent Secretary, members and staff of the ministry, for all adopting the motto that we must do much more now with much less. Madam Speaker, for fiscal 2017, the HCC completed work on 4 housing developments in Malik, Fairfield, Victoria Keys, Indigo Martin, and Exchange in Couva, for a total of 1,089 housing units.
As the Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, I'm being disturbed by a member for Caroni East.
Caroni East, could you kindly, thank you very much. Member for
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also restarted, and we were able to restart all the HCC's stalled projects, stalled between the years 2010 to 2015. Madam Speaker, some of these projects have been started up to 12 years ago. Madam Speaker, we believe that these unfinished stalled developments must go to those for whom they were being built. Madam Speaker, we have resumed work on Real Springs in Valsayn, View Fort, St. James, Lakeview in Point Fortin, and Carson Field and Malabar in Arima. Madam Speaker, the HEC has also started work on new developments in Bonaire South, Corinth, Trestrail, and Moruga. The HEC now has a total of 23 developments under construction at various stages in construction, with a total yield of about 2,600 housing units, and that would cost to complete about $2.7 billion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the HEC will continue to play its part to stimulate the economy and to create much-needed employment for the tradesmen, unskilled workers, and the local economy that it can stimulate. Key distributions, Madam Speaker. For fiscal 2017, we were able to distribute 1,258 housing units to deserving families, many of them going last year, Christmas time, Madam Speaker, in our 1,000 Homes by Christmas initiative. Madam Speaker, there were much more than key distribution ceremonies. We invited members of the private sector, service providers, Flow, Digicel, as well as Court, Standard, etc., to come and speak to the key recipients to assist them in getting their homes running. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Housing intends to allocate and distribute an additional 500 to 700 units by December 2017. Madam Speaker, I must also remind this Honourable House that it was a PNM government that took the policy decision to approve a 10% allocation to members of the Joint Protective Services for all public housing distributions. And as promised, Madam Speaker, we restarted the Joint Protective Services Housing Committee, which comprises of representatives of all the various arms of the protective services, along with members from the Ministry of National Security. The committee, Madam Speaker, coordinates to ensure that members of the protective services who are most in need are able to secure safe and comfortable accommodation according to the policy. Since February 2017, Madam Speaker, the committee has convened and begun its work, and for fiscal 2017, 118 members of the protective services have been allocated housing. And we will continue, Madam Speaker, in fiscal 2018 to ensure that the members of the protective services receive their just allocation. Madam Speaker, I turn to the issue of revenue collection. Having regard to our massive shortfall in funding at the HDC, Madam Speaker, the HDC has had to turn to other sources of revenue generation. And Madam Speaker, the HDC continues to work very closely with the TTMF on its Mortgage Caravan initiative, which seeks to ensure and encourage householders who are on license to occupy agreements and RTO agreements, rent to own agreements, Madam Speaker, to convert their accounts to mortgages according to the terms of their agreements. Over fiscal 2017, Madam Speaker, the HDC has converted 843 LTO and RTO accounts. These conversions brought in $317 million. And since the start of the initiative, Madam Speaker, the HDC would have collected over $550 million in mortgage conversions, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, this money goes a long way in funding government's housing program. Madam Speaker, we will continue to step up our efforts to convert some 4,000 accounts and receive some $2.4 billion in outstanding revenue so that we can complete our outstanding projects. Madam Speaker, I turn now to delinquencies. It was revealed in April of this year that the HDC was owed arrears from the rental payments from tenants to the tune of $106 million. Since then, Madam Speaker, during fiscal 2017, the HDC has put some improved measures in place to reduce the occurrence of delinquent payments. And notwithstanding the amounts owed to the HDC still being relatively high, Madam Speaker, the HDC was able to collect $103 million on the delinquent accounts, Madam Speaker. In fiscal 2018, the HDC will continue in its efforts to reduce the delinquency rates and ensure that tenants continue to pay their monthly rents on time. And, Madam Speaker, the HDC will continue to take its revenue collection efforts very seriously. This is the way we are going to fund our housing program as well as our maintenance program in the years to come. I turn to TTMF, Madam Speaker. In February 2017, the Ministry of Housing carried out a 2017 budget measure announced by the Minister of Finance to make residential mortgages more affordable to a greater number of citizens. The effect of this measure was to expand the affordable mortgages program offered by the TTMF. In fiscal 2017, Madam Speaker, 332 persons would have been able to access the 5% mortgage facility, and 621 persons would have been able to access the 2% mortgage facility. Madam Speaker, by comparison with the previous government, between the entire period of 2011 to 2015, for those 4 years, Madam Speaker, under the People's Partnership, in the 2% mortgage program, for the 4 years cumulatively, Madam Speaker, the TTMF was only able to provide 357 loans. Madam Speaker, you compare 357 loans over a 4-year period under the PP to 474 loans, Madam Speaker, in 2016 alone under the PNM, and 621, Madam Speaker, alone in 2017 under the PNM. Almost all of these persons, Madam Speaker, accessing TTMF mortgages would have been the beneficiaries of HDC housing. And Madam Speaker, again, I'm referring to the member for Siparia indicating in her response to the budget that her government believes in a home-owning democracy. But Madam Speaker, isn't it inconsistent to say that your government believes in a home-owning democracy when the numbers show that only a very small number of individuals acquired mortgages, and thus less persons, a small number of persons, were able to get the deeds to their properties, Madam Speaker, during the period 2011 to 2015. Madam Speaker, on the same topic of revenue collection, and this may be a topic of interest to Caroni East. Madam Speaker, we would have completed and launched very proudly the Victoria Keys housing development in Diego Martin. Madam Speaker, if you recall, this project was started way back in 2005 and was supposed to cost just about $250 million to be completed for housing for the low-income persons in society. In the end, Madam Speaker, the People's Partnership Government changed the scope of the project to incorporate a swimming pool, multi-story car parks complete with elevators, a tennis court, a clubhouse, etc. The project ended up costing the taxpayer just about $652 million, Madam Speaker, an escalation from $250 million for low-income earners to $652 million. So, Madam Speaker, this government took the decision to offer the units of Victoria Keys for sale on the open market. And in the last 7 months, the HCC would have realized sales to the value of $106 million. And Madam Speaker, the proceeds of the sales of these apartments now allow the HDC to complete long outstanding projects like View Fort and other projects intended for the low and middle income earners. Madam Speaker, in fiscal 2018, we will step up our efforts to have all these units sold so that we can receive all the revenue possible. And very soon we'll be inviting, Madam Speaker, real estate agents to come in and assist the HDC in selling the units. Let me just quickly mention the HDC's debt to contractors. Madam Speaker, when I assumed the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, I learned that the HDC was owing contractors up to $800 million. Madam Speaker, with our significant efforts at revenue collection and revenue generation, we are able now to pay all these contractors, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me now turn to report on the Land for the Landless program. The member for Siparia spoke of the Land for the Landless program as being a hallmark program of her government. Madam Speaker, the Land for the Landless program was very simply a residential lots program, very simply. Madam Speaker, it is a program that would distribute to successful applicants residential lots at a subsidized cost on the condition that they construct a dwelling unit in a certain period of time, Madam Speaker. And so a service lots program is not a stranger to Trinidad and Tobago. In the past governments would have done it very, very successfully. For example, Madam Speaker, in Union Hall. Because governments past and present, Madam Speaker, recognize that there are certain persons who want a plot of land because they are so ambitious and so industrious that they would want to construct their housing units themselves. And Madam Speaker, the Land for the Landless program has had its genesis in 2012 up until 2015. And Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if the member for Siparia knows that up until we assumed office in 2015, not one single applicant had received a deed of lease for their land. Not one. Madam Speaker, shortly after I assumed office, I caused a review to be done of the program. And the committee reviewing the program was made up of persons employed at the Ministry of Housing. And Madam Speaker, what they reported was a flawed and failed program. Madam Speaker, there were apparent beneficiaries in that program signing agreements for land with no deposits having been first made. On the other hand, Madam Speaker, there were apparent beneficiaries making deposits and paying installments without having first signed an agreement. Madam Speaker, it was a strict term of the agreement that beneficiaries were to construct a housing unit within 2 years. Yet there were apparent beneficiaries with no source of income, or an income so low that they could not even purchase the land. Madam Speaker, worst of all, the state of being landless was a main criterion for selection to the program, yet the vast majority of apparent beneficiaries or their co-applicants were not subjected to title searches to ensure landlessness. Madam Speaker, the program was fraught with inconsistencies. There was little or no due diligence, and there was a complete failure in the program's execution. So, Madam Speaker, it leads me to believe that the real aim for this Land for the Landless program was really the handing out of contracts for the development of the service lots and not the allocation of lots to those who need it most, the beneficiaries. And Madam Speaker, that's the fundamental difference between the UNC and the PNM. In programs, Madam Speaker, in programs such as this, the contractor is the main focus of UNC policy, where on the other hand, the citizen seeking shelter opportunities is the center of PNM policy. So, Madam Speaker, this year, Cabinet approved the termination of that program. However, Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the termination, government has recognized the expectations of some 418 selected applicants who were at an advanced stage in the program, and we have contacted all of them with a view to taking them forward, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, at the same time, Cabinet also approved a new housing program to be implemented by the ministry. And Madam Speaker, this housing program is called the Aided Self-Help Housing Program, which will in essence replace the Land for the Landless program. Madam Speaker, the fundamental difference between this program and the last is that this one is planned all the way to the end and focuses on the beneficiary from the submission of a successful application all the way, Madam Speaker, walking side by side, assisting in the selection of housing designs, pre-approved plans, technical assistance in obtaining regulatory approvals, assisting in the supplying of a pool of pre-qualified small contractors, and further assistance with quality control and project management towards the completion of the housing unit. Madam Speaker, the program will be divided into a number of phases. We expect to be able to distribute about 1,000 lots in the first cycle, and these lots will be offered to successful applicants at 30% the market value to be determined by the Commissioner of Valuations. And Madam Speaker, beneficiaries will be required to build in 2 to 3 years. The first phase, Madam Speaker, will be the application phase, where citizens will be invited to apply to the program, and the usual criteria would apply, Madam Speaker. You must be 21 years of age, you, your spouse, or your co-applicant must not be the owner or co-owner of property in Trinidad and Tobago, etc. Madam Speaker, in the second phase, beneficiaries will be selected, agreements entered into, and deposits made, and deeds drawn up. In the third phase, beneficiaries will be educated and given a roadmap to housing that will show the way from deed of lease through to the submission of designs to town and country and to the construction phase. Madam Speaker, they will be aided and assisted by the Ministry of Housing through these very critical stages. Madam Speaker, in the fourth phase, the ministry would assist the beneficiary towards the start of construction. Madam Speaker, this program will also be available to persons who may possess land but still require some assistance from the ministry, some technical assistance in terms of getting pre-approved housing plans, assistance in taking their approvals towards town and country. They will be a pool of pre-qualified contractors would also be made available to that applicant, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the ministry has on offer pre-approved housing designs with units that could cost as little as $300,000. We expect this program to be a significant success, and we expect to do at least one more cycle of at least 500 lots. Madam Speaker, in the first cycle, we will do about 1,000 lots. Madam Speaker, this program, we expect to ease the burden and ease the demand on government housing.
Will the Minister give way to a question? Will applicants who have applied under the Land for the Landless program be taken into account in this program that you are proceeding with?
Madam Speaker, to answer the member's question, all citizens would be invited to apply. All citizens would reapply. And Madam Speaker, we would expect to open the application period for just about 1 month or 2 months. Madam Speaker,
you are saying
over. Madam Speaker, I'm not giving way. Madam Speaker,
5 minutes.
Another program we expect to implement over fiscal 2018, Madam Speaker, is the Home Ownership 101 program. Madam Speaker, this is a new project. At the Ministry, Madam Speaker, we believe that the road to home ownership outside the provisions of state-built housing units at the HGC could prove to be a very difficult and convoluted process. And Madam Speaker, we believe that many citizens do not understand the process or feel blocked by the bureaucracy of the regulatory agencies, as was stated by the member for Tabakit. Madam Speaker, they do not understand the financing process and the financial qualification criteria for mortgages. In this light, Madam Speaker, the Ministry will produce a complete housing manual that will explain in very simple terms everything to do with housing, from dealing with real estate agents, the regulatory agencies, Madam Speaker, mortgage companies, landlord and tenant law, the cost of home ownership versus the cost of rental, etc. And Madam Speaker, we intend for this manual to be very comprehensive, very popular, and explain in very simple terms all matters related to housing. Madam Speaker, I turn now to the squatter regularization program. The squatter regularization program, Madam Speaker, has continued apace. The LSA has increased its capacity to process certificates of comfort. Certificates of comfort have been distributed throughout the year, and at present we have 324 certificates that await distribution. All applications for certificates of comfort would be processed, investigated, and determined, all applications, Madam Speaker, by January 2018. Madam Speaker, the squatter regularization program is a 3-stage process for those occupants of state lands in designated areas prior to 1998. The first stage, Madam Speaker, is the application and receipt of a certificate of comfort. Government then upgrades the infrastructure to these sites to full approval. And the second and third stage, Madam Speaker, is the grant of a statutory lease and then a deed of lease to the certificate holder who has satisfied all the requirements under the State Land Regularization of Tenure Act 1998. Madam Speaker, I now have the privilege to report that since the coming into force of the Act and the squatter regularization program, this government is now able to grant statutory leases to certificate of comfort holders in exchange for a premium. Madam Speaker, Cabinet recently approved that the premium be 25% of the market value of the lands, the infrastructural cost to be borne by the government. Madam Speaker, this premium will be charged to all certificate of comfort holders who have fulfilled all their requirements under the Act. The statutory lease is for a period of 30 years, and persons who have received these statutory leases will have a period of 30 years to pay for their land. Madam Speaker, once the land is paid for...
Member for San Fernando East, your 45 minutes announcement. You're entitled to 10 more minutes if you wish to avail yourself. Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, once the land is paid for, the beneficiaries will then be assigned a deed of lease for 199 years. Over the next fiscal year, Madam Speaker, we will begin to issue these statutory leases to those qualified occupants in some 21 sites across Trinidad. We have, at present, Madam Speaker, over 1,000 leases that can be issued in the next year. Madam Speaker, as I turn now to UDCOT, and Madam Speaker, the UDCOT, notwithstanding this country's economic challenges, has been very busy in fiscal 2017. And Madam Speaker, UDCOT has been able to prudently manage and keep the cost down of the construction projects all over Trinidad and Tobago. And Madam Speaker, my colleagues, fellow ministers on this side would get the opportunity to speak of all their projects that the UDCOT has been project managing. But Madam Speaker, just to mention, the St. Joseph, Besson Street and Maracas police stations that have all been completed. Madam Speaker, the Mayaro Fire Station, the Government Campus Plaza. Madam Speaker, the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, completed, Madam Speaker. The refurbishment of the Hyatt Regency, Mount Lambert and Akbar Trace community centers that have been recently started, along with Cantaro, Taradale, Las Lomas, etc. Madam Speaker, work continues on the Arima Hospital, and the Minister of Health will speak to that, the Point Fortin Hospital, the Diego Martin Health Center, Chaguanas Health Center, etc., Madam Speaker. And in fiscal 2018, Madam Speaker, UDCOT will continue to deliver these projects under cost and on time. Madam Speaker, with respect to the Silwick Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Committee, there was recently appointed a board at Silwick, Madam Speaker, and I can give the assurance that all outstanding matters, Madam Speaker, deeds of lease, releases, outstanding payments to all of Silwick shareholders will be settled shortly. Madam Speaker, at the Ministry, in fiscal 2018, we also intend to complete a project at 43 Independence Square. Madam Speaker, that project is the shell of a building, Madam Speaker. The project will be refurbished and will provide a space, an incubator for entrepreneurs in the Port of Spain area, and it will be managed by the board of the Eastside Plaza and the New City Mall, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at East Port of Spain Development Company, that company continues to execute small to medium infrastructural upgrading projects to the communities of East Port of Spain, and very soon for fiscal 2018, Madam Speaker, we will meet with all the stakeholders in East Port of Spain to plan a next phase of infrastructural upgrading work. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the future is bright at the Ministry of Housing and in the housing sector. I see Oropuch East nodding in approval, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these new programs, aided self-help, squatter regularization program, Madam Speaker, and the new initiatives for developers and traders in houses, Madam Speaker, the future is bright. Madam Speaker, and we would take the opportunity at the Ministry of Housing to report to the national community throughout the year on all the achievements that we have made and all the new initiatives that would be available for citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.